Tonight on Cronkite News, we take a look at Phoenix's latest approach to utilizing converted shipping containers as shelter for people experiencing homelessness.
Plus, why some lawmakers are critical of a Smithsonian Museum exhibit featuring Hispanic American history.
And how the community is remembering one local boxing coach who helped many in the Valley. Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News. I'm Erin Patterson.
And I'm Eduardo Morales. Thank you for joining us.
The historic heat wave gripping Phoenix is making headlines across the country.
But Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallego had a special audience today to talk about the heat and what the city is doing to fight it. As Cronkite News reporter Lily Bordeaux reports from Washington Bureau.
Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallego and San Antonio Mayor Ron Nirenberg joined President Joe Biden virtually.
We're going to outline steps we're taking to help communities who right this minute, as both the mayors can tell you, are facing a real crisis in their cities.
The crisis in Phoenix is in the form of an unprecedented heat wave. Gallego said even in the Valley of the Sun, officials are scrambling to save lives.
We deal with this heat on an annual basis, so we've been focused on preparedness from day one and really trying to prepare for what is, for us, a long-term emergency. You mentioned that how many lives are lost to heat, and that's a real focus for us.
Gallego said after the White House event that Phoenix has been able to use a large share of funds from the American Rescue Plan Act to get people indoors, where they're safer from the extreme heat.
We have used federal dollars for hotels to housing, as well as building new projects from the ground up.
The city used ARPA funds, for example, to buy shipping containers that are converted into housing with air conditioning powered by rooftop solar panels. Gallego said the units can be constructed indoors, protecting construction workers from the heat. Protecting workers was just one of the priorities discussed by Biden. He said he asked the Department of Labor to issue a first-ever heat hazard alert to help protect workers most vulnerable to extreme heat exposure, like farm and construction workers.
We should be protecting workers from hazardous conditions, and we will. And those states where they do not, I'm going to be calling them out.
Biden said that alert will help the Labor Department ramp up enforcement of the heat safety regulations and increase inspections for those high-risk industries.
We are making progress, but as you heard today, we have a lot more work to do.
Go said part of that work includes getting Congress to declare heat a disaster like other weather crises, which could allow for Federal Emergency Management Agency funding. In Washington, D.C., Lily Boudreau, Cronkite News.
As you know, here in the Valley, we've been experiencing that heat that President Biden has been talking about. But last night, the monsoon finally arrived for some of us.
Daniel Pike joins us now from the Cronkite Weather Center to tell us just how much rain we saw.
Thanks, Aaron. In yesterday's monsoon here in the Valley, we got drenched. Almost a full inch in Paradise Valley, half an inch of rain in Tempe. Yesterday, I was driving and I got soaked. As you can see, the storm was vicious. The rain was coming, dust was everywhere, trees were falling down. It was extremely dangerous, especially driving. If you are driving and you see something like this, pull over or get inside as soon as possible. The roads are absolutely wild. Stay tuned to the full forecast to find out the rest of the week and what the monsoon is going to look like and how hot it's going to get.
Migrant deaths in the desert so far this summer are the lowest level that they have been in years. But as our Shelly Garzon reports, officials are warning that could all change in a matter of weeks.
A warning: the video you're about to see contains some graphic images, including human remains, which may be offensive to some.
Already in July, officials have recorded 33 migrant deaths, half the number recorded in the first 6 months of the year.
We're in the busy part of the year for migrant deaths. Our number of deaths is usually directly proportional to how hot it is outside. It's been that way for years.
Despite the spike in deaths, the 99 deaths recorded by the medical examiner's office so far is still below the death toll of recent years.
We're actually behind in terms of where we were over the same period of time in 2022.
The 99 deaths recorded so far is down sharply from the same time last year, when Hess said his office had recorded 124 migrant deaths. But Lieutenant Jeremy Olson of the Pima County Sheriff's Office says the heat in Arizona over the last few weeks has increased the number of deaths they're seeing.
We had 2 instances within the past week where we responded to reports of a death as a result of exposure. that had just happened.
Hess said that it's not always possible to cite a specific cause of death for all the remains that are found, but that exposure is believed to be the cause in most of the cases. Olson says that for departments like his, this is not so much an immigration matter as a humanitarian issue, one that officers want to be a helping hand in.
We care about people's lives. We worry about people's safety. It doesn't matter which country they're from. A human life is a human life, and they deserve all the respect and dignity of anybody else.
In Washington, Shelley Garzone, Cronkite News.
The city of Phoenix teamed up with volunteer organization St. Vincent de Paul and metal fabrication company Steel and Spark to build a homeless shelter out of shipping containers. This will stand as the city's first X-wing structure, or a residence in the shape of an X, made from 4 40-foot shipping containers with 16 units, intended to house up to 20 people experiencing homelessness. Those without homes spend much of their time outside, and with brutally hot summers being particularly hard on them, these repurposed shipping containers turned into shelters will be one option for relief. The shelter will have no lease or time limit for how long each resident is allowed to stay. The volunteer organization has an ongoing list and plans to move residents in one by one and rotate them as they move out.
Now to Washington, where House Republicans say they support a proposed national museum of the American Latino, but they still voted last week to pull funding for it, a move they say that is meant to send a message. Cronkite News reporter Isabel Garcia explains what that message is from our Washington bureau.
Arizona Congressman Juan Ciscomani said he was excited to bring his family to a Smithsonian Institution exhibit that is the first step towards a National Museum of the American Latino. But that excitement changed as he walked through the exhibit, which he said portrays U.S. Latinos as victims.
I was terribly disappointed with what we saw. So much so that we had a kind of powwow at the end of the session to, quite frankly, correct the history. Not only the interpretation of who we are as a community and our heritage in this country, but also the history piece of it.
Other Republicans echoed Ciscomani and added that the exhibit has an anti-American bias. That's why they voted last week to eliminate funding for the museum, a move they say is intended to get the attention of the Smithsonian Board.
I am hopeful that the curator at the Smithsonian and you all get together and work this out so that this language isn't necessary. Nobody wants this language, but sometimes it's the only way you get the attention of someone, and that's why it's there.
But Democrats said Republicans are playing a dangerous game, one that could end up killing the museum altogether.
But we cannot throw the baby out with the bathwater. We cannot completely throw away the work that has been done for so many years.
Some Democrats said they too have criticisms of the exhibit, called Presente, but they said the best way to fix that is to talk with the museum officials.
I don't believe any of you have a background as a museum curator. I could be wrong. This is what that job does.
But Ciscomani said it's important to get the presentation of Latino history right, and he hopes the House has the attention of officials at the Smithsonian.
I agree that this museum needs to exist, and that's why I hope we can find a solution that reflects the rich diversity, the significant contributions, and the strong values that our beloved Hispanic community has offered this nation for so long.
I reached out to the museum, but they were unable to give me a comment. In Washington, Isabel Garcia, Cronkite News.
With Congress about to leave on its regular August recess, the budget bill with the Latino Museum language will not be considered by the full House until September at the earliest. And it would still have to make it through the Senate for the funding cut to win final approval.
Adaptive sports have come a long way since they were first introduced over 60 years ago.
Coming up next, we'll take a look at the advancements made and how they're impacting athletes across Arizona.
Three, 2, 1. Cronkite News. Get real professional experience in areas such as reporting, broadcast editing, and behind-the-scenes production, such as technical director and audio.
Kill the mics.
or go out in the field and cover important local stories.
To be able to learn and master the English language.
In a fun, welcoming atmosphere, Cronkite News, the future starts now.
Here at the Walter Cronkite School, students produce award-winning content that focuses on health disparities in underserved communities and how to turn things around. In Cronkite News and Cronkite Noticias, students cover stories that affect people of color, the LGBTQ+ community, people with disabilities, and others across the Southwest.
We highlight big problems that are often overlooked in communities that are underserved.
Those stories not only inform and educate people about the challenges, but we work hard to highlight potential solutions. In the Cronkite Agency, students work to connect with community members through social media campaigns in English and Spanish.
Being a Hispanic myself, it's nice to be able to give back to my own community.
Find more of our health coverage at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
Welcome back. It's time for Sports Now, where we bring you two big stories: the passing of an icon and the growing popularity of adaptive sports. The local boxing community is mourning the loss of a beloved coach with deep roots in the Valley.
Cronkite News reporter Crystal Stone has more on how the legacy he left impacts lives beyond the ring.
Some of the best boxers in the world have come through this gym, from Mike Tyson to Tyson Fury. All were touched by Alex Milligan, who for the better part of 2 decades built a reputation not only as a legendary trainer, but also a generous spirit.
In the heart of West Phoenix stands a monument of boxing history, Central Boxing Gym, where world boxing champions and young hopefuls from all over have come to train. But earlier this month, the boxing world lost one of its legendary leaders, Alex Milligan, who for nearly 20 years co-owned and managed the iconic gym.
Boxing's gonna miss him. He was a good guy.
Known simply as Coach Al, Milligan crossed paths with many of boxing's titans.
For being a short guy, we lost a big guy in boxing.
With an even bigger heart. Throughout the years, Milligan generously fed the homeless.
He's a loving, kind, God-given man.
And opened the doors of his gym to anyone seeking refuge.
Because of Al, what he's been through and how he respects everyone, you come in, you have a problem, he understands. He'll hear you out, and he'll find a way to help you. He'll never say no, never.
From foster care to serving jail time, Milligan excelled beyond his past to make life better for others, especially kids.
My husband like, okay, you've been bullied, I'm gonna train you to where you can defend yourself and give you confidence.
Mrs. Milligan said her husband lived at this place, arriving early in the morning and not leaving until late at night. Still, she said the special moments they shared outside of this gym during their 27 years of marriage is what she'll miss the most.
His smile, his silliness, coloring with him, going fishing with him, just doing little things, you know, getting in our car, just going for a Sunday ride, you know, and praying with him. I'm gonna miss that.
The Milligans shared a home that is just as visually impressive as the gym, with his wife's Asian culture on full display.
He's an awesome husband, an awesome father. I never thought I would marry somebody the way I married him.
Dozens of kids and grandkids later, Milligan fought his last fight against liver cancer, dying at the age of 61. And in his final moments,
I said, babe, I know God needs you more than I need you here. And it's not a goodbye, it's I see you later. And he just smiled and then took his last breath, and he's resting now. No more pain, no more worry.
Their grandson, Kihano, will take over as the gym's manager, and the family plans to carry on Milligan's kindness.
We are going to try to keep his legacy going by feeding the homeless. We're going to do it in honor of him every time we do it.
Memorial services for Milligan will be held this Friday, and as a final tribute, his funeral procession will drive by Central Boxing Gym one last time. In Phoenix, Crystal Stone, Cronkite News.
adaptive sports have come a long way since the first Paralympic Games in 1960.
Wheelchair technology, televised events, and even giant corporations have played a major role in its growth. John Kuzi joins us now with more on the world of adaptive sports.
It was Disability Pride Month in July, and with the month coming to a close, it's important that we look at how far adaptive sports have come and how beneficial they are to the disabled community. To some, a disability may come at birth, but to others, it may come when you least expect it. However, having a disability doesn't mean your active life has to end.
I've been an amputee since I was almost 5 years old. Didn't know adaptive sports existed back then. I'm from a small town in Indiana.
I was hurt in a car accident when I was 7 years old, and I became paralyzed from the waist down. At that time, I didn't know about adaptive sports.
With little attention to adaptive sports in the early 2000s, some adaptive athletes played high school sports with non-disabled competitors.
I was the only kid in a chair at my high school, so there was definitely, this is back in like 1999, 2000, so there was definitely a lot of awareness that needed to be happening.
One thing left out of the conversation was the different set of rules for wheelchair tennis players. Specifically, the two-bounce rule, which helps wheelchair players get to the ball because they can't move laterally.
A lot of the other coaches from other teams had no idea that this two-bounce rule even existed, and I remember going to matches and the other coaches and other players asking, like, is this really fair that she gets two bounces? It was kind of like making some waves and having a lot of people ask questions, and they were wondering if, you know, if more people are going to start to do this.
With the help of programs like the one at the University of Arizona, more players have gotten into adaptive athletics.
My philosophy is that if you are a student with a disability and you come in my doors and say, Pete, I want to play bocce ball, or I want to do power soccer, or I want to do swimming, it's my job to help you do that.
The Wildcats have been one of the most predominant adaptive sports programs in the country since they began 44 years ago. And as technology evolved, so did the programs at Arizona. They now have 8 programs and a fully adapted weight room for their athletes.
Easy access and independent living is an important thing. You know, it's we don't want our athletes to come in here and have to use equipment that they have to wait for somebody else to help them use. They got to come in here, they got to get their work done, they got to get out.
One piece of technology that has helped grow adaptive sports are wheelchairs. Here you can see how I move in my personal wheelchair, and here I am in a sports wheelchair. As you can see, I am much more mobile.
Technology is huge, especially when it comes to prosthetics, wheelchairs. I mean, when they started wheelchair basketball, everybody was using day chairs. Now we have specialized sports chairs that we use.
Along with new and improved wheelchairs, social media caught on and has helped grow adaptive sports fans.
The accessibility and awareness that we have to be able to see things, and with our phones, just to be able to like record something and post it on the internet, people are aware, and it's super cool. And because of that, our athletes are getting treated and making money that they should be deserving as of any other athlete without a disability.
Even as adaptive sports started to bring in money and sponsors, the most important thing remains the benefit for adaptive athletes to stay active and healthy by playing.
It's essential. I mean, the power of sport is a real thing. I believe in it 100%. There's a study that's out. His study showed wheelchair users' employment level was 18%. And then you add education, it goes to 23. And then if you add education and sport, it goes to 54.
With 13% of Arizona's population having some sort of disability, just know it is never too late to get started playing adaptive sports. From wheelchair basketball to wheelchair tennis, adaptive sports are growing. Athletes are getting sponsorship deals from corporations like Adidas, and less of the disabled community are choosing to watch from the sidelines. In the newsroom, John Kuzi, Cronkite News.
Arizona State football has a mix of players from the transfer portal joining this year's team, and a group of returners who will look to add onto last year's efforts, one of which is tight end Jalen Conyers, who came to Tempe in 2021 and has emerged as a star for the Sun Devils. When Conyers transferred to ASU, his production was limited. But in late October of last year against Colorado, he caught 6 passes for 108 yards and 3 touchdowns. It was that breakout game in Boulder that set the tone for the rest of the season. At Pac-12 Media Day in Las Vegas, Conyers talked about the big shift in mentality he learned from that game.
I just had to be patient, wait my turn. Messiah is a dog, and obviously we got a really good tight end room with Bryce, too, being in there as well. So I think that game it honestly changed my life. It kind of put me in a place that, it was kind of my first, game where I had the most confidence I'd ever had to be able to do what I did, and I was able to run with that towards the end of the season.
You know, sometimes all you need is a fresh haircut to make yourself feel good.
But some folks may just not have enough in their budget to get a trim.
But there is help out there. After the break, the company that's giving thousands of haircuts to seniors for free.
Plus, Mother Nature graced us with rain last night. Can we expect another round soon? Your weekend forecast is up next.
ASU's one and only student-run radio station, Blaze Radio, provides students with opportunities to cover a variety of topics. From music,
this is Sun City Garage,
to sports coverage.
Against the Brewers in his last outing, he went
to news.
The bill also gives parents the ability to sue.
And entertainment updates. Blaze Radio offers a fun environment to gain valuable broadcast experience. To find out more, visit blazeradioonline.com.
This is CN2 Go. I'm Emily Olson with your Wednesday news briefing.
Do you want to create innovative content for Cronkite News? Do you enjoy listening to podcasts? Then CN2 Go is for you. Cronkite News to Go is a podcast where students cover the latest headlines. Students become audio producers and hosts and will learn how to write, record, and edit stories. You can listen to the latest episodes on these platforms.
The monsoon arrived last night for many here in the Valley. So when can we expect more rain?
Daniel Pike joins us now from the Weather Center with the answer.
Yeah, guys, it is really, really hot today. 111 around right now, and it cools off to 103. As we are in the monsoon and got dumped by rain yesterday. It is clearing up a little bit in Phoenix, but look what's going on in Tucson tomorrow, and even a little bit for us in the Valley. The rain is coming. Oh my God, yesterday was wild. For the low temperatures, 92 in Phoenix. Look at Yuma, 86. And guess what? Even up north, it's still kind of a little warm. And you know what? Even the highs, 88 up there, 114 in Phoenix. The purple shrinking a little bit. Still really hot, but maybe, just maybe, we're cooling down a little bit. And look at these national high temperatures. 114 is the highest number on the board. 79 in Los Angeles, 86 in Miami. So it is, pretty nice. And in Arizona, the 114 is the highest temperature out there. For the 8-day forecast, 5 straight days of clouds. That is pretty nice around this time of year. It cools off a little bit, but the rain will be coming. And then the sun is going to be clear. And look at this, 107, 104. We are going to be breaking that streak of a high over 110. From the Cronkite Weather Center, I'm Daniel Pike.
For some seniors, there's no guarantee their next haircut is. Mobility, access, and cost can all stand in the way of getting a fresh haircut.
But Maricopa County recently gave a grant to a company that is changing how people receive hair care while also making a positive impact on mental wellness. Bree Pacelli attended one of those events to see how the company operates.
A team of 2 barbers set up shop in a senior living home. They are both part of ClipDart, a nationwide mobile barbershop that helps improve mental wellness.
Growing up in those type of communities, barbershops, hair salons are really cultural institutions.
Kyle Parker, CEO of ClipDart, got the idea of starting mobile barbershops like this while he was in college, where access to a barber who was familiar with cutting African American hair was hard to find.
When you're in college, you feel like these are some of your most opportune times, and during my most opportune times, I never felt like I looked my best. So it really began to take a toll on my mental wellness.
Since 2020, Parker has 60 nonprofit and 40 for-profit partners a part of his business across the United States. Recently, Maricopa County gave Clipdart a grant of $100,000 to serve seniors through June of next year.
It always helps your mental health to get a haircut.
According to Clipdart's website, barbers can be viewed as therapists, mentors, and pillars of the community.
Hair care is a basic necessity. It's not something that people just want so they can look good. It's really something they need to feel good about themselves.
David Rodriguez leads the team of barbers here in Maricopa. They have 13 organizations across Maricopa, and every hour they are giving around 5 haircuts.
I love my career, but I also love making a difference in someone's life through my talent. Right? So I'm providing a service that's going to change your entire life just by a simple haircut. It starts with a simple haircut, but it's a little bit more than that, because we all know that once you look your best, you feel your best, and therefore you perform your best, right? And you are at your best.
Clipdart went above and beyond last year, giving away 2,650 free haircuts. But this year, they're already on track to triple that number, already being at 3,600. In Phoenix, Bree Pacelli, Cronkite News.
You can find Clipdart's schedule on their website at clipdart.com. They have 3 to 4 events a week in Arizona for seniors.
That's it for Cronkite News, and thank you for joining us.
And to see top Arizona stories anytime, log on to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.